Welcome to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast, where we move from wonder to worship, looking for God at work in the world around us, ready to ask the tough questions and discover what His Word has to say to us. Today's episode is titled, He'll See You in the Mourning, and it comes from me, Casey Taylor. Have you ever accidentally caused a big problem for someone else?
Oops.
I'm not talking about minor inconveniences, like leaving something at home and having to have your mom or dad drive back to get it. I'm talking major consequences of your action that someone else had to pay. I definitely have. And though these two situations weren't my finest moments, the difference in the ways that I handled each one showed me something about the state of my heart in each moment. And I think there's a lesson for you in how I reacted as well. The first situation happened during a baseball tournament that I played in as a kid and involved me running home after my teammate hit the ball into the outfield and I tried to score. Now, I wasn't what you'd call fast, but I was smart, so I just knew that I could make it to the plate. Only my legs and my mind weren't working at the same speed. And the outfielder threw the ball into the catcher, who was waiting for me with the ball in hand, ready to tag me out when I got there. My biggest problem at this point was really that I'd watched too much baseball in my life, and so rather than slide, I smashed into him like a linebacker, trying to knock the ball out of his hands like you used to be able to do in the major leagues. Now, that rule never applied to Little League, so I got ejected from the game. From a Little League game, for running over the catcher, who I happened to go to school with, and whose ribs I broke during this incident, unfortunately. But the thing that bothered me in the moment wasn't the well-being of my friend, but the fact that I couldn't play anymore. How could they not expect me to walk in the footsteps of the great baseball players I grew up watching? I didn't mean to harm the catcher, who again, was a friend from school. I just wanted to score. So how could they not understand that? It wasn't malice, it was strategy. Okay, let's put that story to the side for a second. Now, I promise I'm not a violent person, but my second story also includes an injury. But stay with me. I coached my daughter's soccer team for many years, and at the end of one season, on the last game day of the season, the other team just didn't show up. They forfeited because they weren't going to have the numbers that they needed in order to play us. So instead of ending the season on a whimper and no final game, we played kids versus coaches. Only, we also allowed some of our girls' sisters and older siblings to play as well. I tried playing mostly defensively since I was much bigger than our girls, and at one point I tried to kick the ball all the way down the field to one of our other coaches. But instead of hitting it cleanly, because I was running towards the sideline when I tried to kick the ball upfield, I absolutely muffed it and instead kicked it directly at one of our players' sisters and broke her arm. Me, a 30-something-year-old dad, kicking a soccer ball and breaking a young girl's arm isn't a good look. I felt and still feel to this day so terrible. I didn't take that game too seriously, but I did seriously hurt that girl, and it had real consequences. She had to get a cast and had to recover, and it was all my fault. And even now when I see her as a high schooler, I still think, man, I bet she wants to run the other way when she sees me coming. This is where I want to look at today's beatitude, which we find in Matthew 5:4.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5, verse 4.
In my baseball story, I was more concerned about what I'd lost and the consequences of my actions for me than I was about my friend or about what my absence meant for my teammates. Whereas, I still feel sad and hurt that I caused that girl pain. Even though she doesn't still hold a grudge, as far as I know, but I just can't help but feel like I wish that I hadn't caused her that pain. In our verse for today, mourning is less like what I did in my baseball game and more like how I still feel about that soccer match and that girl's arm. To mourn isn't to feel sad about consequences and how they affect us. True mourning is a deep sadness for the condition of the world and the effects of sin and the role that we play in our own sin. To truly mourn is to feel the weight and sadness of our sin and its effects on others and ourselves. It's also the feelings that we have when we feel the weight of losing someone before we're ready to, or before we feel like they should have gone. In that way, we feel the weight of sin's effect on the life of a loved one, or someone that we've cared deeply for. Jesus wants us to know that those feelings are normal and good for us to process. He doesn't tell us to get it together. He says that when we feel the weight of sin's effects in the world, and when we mourn for what sin has caused, or over what sin in us has caused others, that we will be comforted by God. God is near to those who demonstrate His heart. And when we, like Him, mourn and feel sorrow over what sin leaves in the world, He gets it, and He stays close to us. Pray that God makes you more like the older me than the one who only cared about what was good or bad for me. Ask Him to give you a heart that knows when to mourn, because He'll be there waiting for you when you do.
Now it's time for
Today's Big Question!
Today's big question is, what are some of the ways that you can see sin affecting the world around you? In the lives of your friends, your families, people in the news, on social media? How might life look different if sin didn't affect those people? Mourning looks like a healthy sadness about the gap between what could be and what is. Let's all pray together that God would keep making all things new and keep our hearts sensitive and help us care so that when we mourn, we know He's right there with us. Thanks for listening to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast. If you want to keep in touch with us on all our social media platforms, check out the links in the description. And if you'd like to help support us as we continue to create meaningful content for kids of all generations, please subscribe to our Patreon by visiting us at patreon.com/wearegenerationkids.